Welcome.
Where's Joe?
Sitting at Benedict's. Need your opinion.
Yes, I shaved. I shaved!
Look at it. Look at it. Doesn't it look smooth? Very, very smooth.
Yeah, as you can tell, I shaved. I decided to get rid of the facial hair. So I'd like to thank Chrissy for my first opinion that I'm gonna give. She was the one to supply me on my first topic.
Thank you, Chrissy. Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thanks, Chrissy.
She gave me a comment and she said that she'd like to hear me talk about STDs, or as they're called now, STIs.
We're STDs, now STIs.
She wanted to hear what my opinion is on that.
She really wants to know my opinion.
So I went onto the internet and I grabbed as much information as I possibly could. This isn't really an informational video, it's more of my opinion on it, so yeah.
It's my opinion. You're not going to get information from me. Maybe it might. I might throw a bit in there, but
They're not called STDs anymore, they're called STIs. All of a sudden, one day they said, you know what, we're not going to call them
sexually transmitted diseases.
We're going to call them sexually transmitted infections. Don't know why, don't know when. They're not STDs, they're STIs. Sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted infections. So my first point I'd like to touch on in this video is the fact that people who have sex, people who have anonymous sex with multiple partners and don't wear condoms. They say,
Man, well, I pull out, you know, she won't get pregnant, I pull out.
well, you know what, that doesn't work at all, really.
Are you idiots?
I mean, even if you don't get her pregnant, the chances are that much higher of you getting infected. Now I'd like to touch on the parents aspect of this situation. You know what, I realize that the sex talk with your child, it must be difficult. I don't have children, so I can't even begin to even think about how difficult of a topic that would be to talk to your son or your daughter about.
I realize it. It must be hard, but it has to be done.
You have to talk to your kids about this, you know. The educational system isn't quite working so well. Somebody has to be there for these young adults, these teens, that to tell them, you know, what precautions to take, what to do. It has to be done. It absolutely does. I also want to touch on the educational system too, because that in itself is one of the worst aspects of it. We don't have proper sex education in our schools today. Children aren't being taught properly on precautions to take, how to deal with it. It's all swept under a carpet and it's put away, and that's not the way to do it.
We won't learn unless we're taught.
That's another aspect of this entire huge problem that affects millions of people in Canada and all over the world. About 300 million new cases of STIs occur each year all over the world. 1 in 4 new STIs occur in teens. 1 in 5 people in the US have an STI. 1 in 4 people have an STI at least once in their life. 1 in 10 teens knows someone who is HIV positive. Now I'd like to touch on the actual spreading of STIs. It's really hard to believe, but it's very true that there are people out there that know that they have these infections and do not disclose that to people that they're sexually active with, and it spreads. I don't think that's right at all. I do not think that's right. And I'd also like to touch on the fact that people have multiple partners, and you know, especially the people that don't use condoms have multiple partners and don't get checked regularly. You know, I think there should be some kind of regulation on that. You should have to go in and get tested once a month. If you have this amount of partners per month, you have to get tested this amount per month or per 6 months, however it works. There should be a law with that. I don't know how they would enforce it or what they would do.
I have no STIs. You know why? 1, I wear a condom all the time, not just some of the time, all the time. 2, I'm cautious with who I have sex with, very cautious, which everyone else should be too. And well, I regularly go in and get checked, as should you and everybody else, because that's going to be the only way that you can protect yourself.
The people who have these infections know that they have these infections and still not disclose this to sexual partners. I think that is one of the most disgusting things that anyone could do. I think that's beyond low, sorry to say it.
Very beyond low.
And, as for people who have these infections, don't know they do, and spread them and then find it out, well, you should be getting regularly checked.
Go to the doctor, get checked. It's not that hard. They even got rid of that umbrella thingy. They don't even do that anymore.
Be safe. Always be safe. I hope you like this week's opinion on STIs. I know it's kind of a touchy subject.
Yeah, it's a pretty touchy subject.
I hope I can touch on it the right way. Thanks for tuning in to this week's opinion. I hope to see you next week.
Opinion posted.